Okay, in this video we're going to take a look at the Ramp 2 exercise, which is the bonus exercise in Chapter 2. So if you want to turn in your book there, if you have your book with you, we'll come to this page on 2-58, and you'll see this is what we're going to try and get out of this little exercise, is this Ramp 2. It's got two curves in it. It's got a starting location and ending location. And we're given all that information here in the dialogues. So we've got an X and a Y that we're given for the beginning and end. We're getting the beginning station of ramp 2 is 0. So that'll be fine. The curve information, you'll notice on the second curve, it's actually going to be a chord-defined curve. So we're going to have to change that. We're going to set our feature definition to the MoDOT baseline proposed and turn it on so that we can use it. We'll store the alignment, we'll annotate the alignment, and we'll double check that it matches with the information on that first sheet here. And then we'll run the report. And then the report is given to us at that location here on the third sheet of the exercise. And we can compare them if we want to. So we'll slide back up here to the first sheet of the exercise. So we're going to be in the civil geometry file. So in project-wise, I'm going to go ahead and open up our Data 2 folder and open up that civil geometry file. Okay, once this file opens, we're going to go to a certain location in the file and take a look at the terrain model as well. Okay, so here it pops up for us. We're going to, first thing we typically do when we come in is make sure that the terrain model is active. So I'm going to go ahead and get the heads up on that. If it's not active, go ahead and make it active, like that. And we're going to zoom into the file right around this location north of the connector road in this area here to get started. And what I'm going to do is every once in a while I'm going to take a look at the drawing that we have. So I'm just going to tab over to that. Okay, inside of here we're given a XY start and an XY end. So I'm going to do something just a little bit different than the normal. I'm going to store some points here to take a look at the points tool. And I'm going to store them at these two spots. So here in our open roads modeling geometry, we're going to go to the point tool. We're going to go to the points option there. In the point tool, I'm going to set this feature definition down here. Start with that. And we are going to be in the point design. We'll be in the drafting standards, miscellaneous, and we'll slide down here to Kogo point. And we'll pick that. And we're going to store point 100. And I'll just say start of ramp 2. Our elevation mode, we don't really need to set an elevation, but we could if we wanted. But we're just going to say none for that. Our rotation, I'm going to set that at N0E. N0E. And that will lock that in so that all I have to do is accept that rotation on the screen when we place it. Okay, so for this first point, we're going to set it with Civil AccuDraw. And so Civil AccuDraw, I've got it pulled out on the screen here. Typically it is down here at the bottom. So all you have to do is turn that on, and it should expand out in the horizontal. Okay, the first tool that we want in there is XY. We want to grab that one because that's what we're given information-wise. So we'll pick on that, and then we'll come out onto the screen, and it'll ask us to enter the data points. The problem that I'm seeing here, though, is that once I picked on Civil AccuDraw down here at the bottom, it reset my information for my point. So it still has the same elevation mode and the same rotation, but you can see down here at the feature definition, it changed my name back to Kogo point. So I'm going to have that go back to 100. start of ramp 2. Okay, so that's a little civil AccuDraw issue there. So we come out onto the screen, and then we are ready to key in our X and our Y. So I'm going to pop up here the ramp 2 exercise in the manual. You can see that our start X and Y is given. So instead of going back and forth, I'm just actually going to copy that over into here. The issue with Civil AccuDraw is the commas. It won't take commas. So we'll take those out. And so basically we're entering in the 1604948.9130 for the X, and then I'm going to hit enter on that, and that'll lock it in. And then for the Y, we're looking at 867.834.2818. So I'm going to put that into the Y and lock that in as well. So type in 867.834.2818 and enter that in. And now we've locked it in there. Our COGO point says 100. It says the start of ramp 2. We should be good there. It places it at this location. We should be good there. I'll go ahead and accept the start of that. And it's got the rotation, which I just keyed in is that N0E. For the COGO point, it's a circle anyway, so should be good with that. We'll accept that, and it will place that point there. Now, you don't have to do COGO point at all to start this. You could just start your line at this location. I like to put the points in so that I don't have to type it in again or anything like that. If I happen to mess up, I can see where it's going to start it. Okay, then we've got another point. So this one will be, we'll do a 200 for the other end. And we'll call this one the end of ramp 2. Okay, we're going to store that point. So again, we have XY. So I will go down into my chapter 2 horizontal. And then the ending point here, we've got this information right here. So I'm going to grab it. And I'm going to put that in my X. So on this one, get rid of the commas here real quick. We've got we'll type in 1604883.5120, and we'll hit the enter key. If I move my mouse around, you can see the line that we're kind of on there. And then we've also got the Y that we need to place in there. So here's the Y. So I'm going to grab that one. And we'll come out here and paste that in there and get rid of the comma. So what you're typing in is 866.871.1847, and we'll hit enter on that. When we move the mouse around, see it's off the screen just a little bit. It's down here. So I've got everything in the box that I want. I've got the left click accept out here on the screen. It's going to give the rotation. I'll left click accept again. Okay. So for that one, that's kind of all we need for the points. Now I'm going to go ahead and label those points. So it's another extra little step you don't have to do, but just to show you, you can do this one. We've got under drawing production, one of the COGO point features is that it knows the description and the name that we gave it. So we can come up here to element annotation underneath the drawing production, and we can come and select these 2 points, and then we'll just right click and it will go ahead and label those points for us. Okay, so we have those out there now labeled, and so we're ready to kind of try to come off of those and create the alignment. So let's talk a little bit about this, what we have. So when you're first looking at this, you might not know even where to begin, but the way that I've completed this is we are given this direction back. We're given a bearing there off of that start location. And the other thing that we know is this element right here, this line or this tangent that comes through here, we know its direction. And then we know the direction of this line here. Now we don't really know lengths necessarily, but we know that these three lines are what make up this alignment. And then we have curves in between them. So we're given a few different things. One of the things that we're given here is our curve information. So this first curve, it tells me that the PI location is right here at 2 plus 6941. Now, what that means is from the start location, I can draw this line out at this direction, that distance, 269.41 feet, and I'll be at the PI. Then I can take that PI and come this direction. I could do the math and figure out exactly what that is, but I'm just going to come from the PI and just go out a distance that's beyond that point that I placed. And then this one, it's going to come from the XY point that we have down there, the point 200, and it's going to come straight up at this bearing. So that's our three lines that we'll have in there. And then we can put our curves in, and then we'll switch to chord and put this curve in. And then we can basically just modify the line that comes in between, and then we can delete out any extra lines that we don't need. So let's try to do that out here on the screen. So for this first one, we've got a direction back again. It is south 36, 17, 4 east. And we're going 269.41. So let's go into ORD, figure out how to do that. So we're going to go to the Geometry tab up here. We're also going to take a look at our feature definition. If yours wasn't set for whatever reason, we can actually create it as an alignment, or we can do these as geometry scratch, which is how I'm going to do this one. I'm just going to go to the linear design geometry, and I'm going to go ahead and select the geometry scratch. To the left of that, we'll activate it. That turns that on, make sure anything that we draw becomes geometry scratch. So these are just going to be basic lines out here. We're going to combine them together later. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom into this 100 point. And we're just going to draw a line. So we're going to use the horizontal tools and do the line tools and go ahead and select the line between points tool. All right. Once we do that, we still have AccuDraw running, which is fine. If you turned that off, you can go ahead and turn that back on down here at the bottom. And we're going to be doing a distance and direction. So I'm going to change that option there to distance and direction. Then when I come out on the screen, it's going to say, where's your start point? Well, my start point is at 100. So all I'm going to do is move my mouse over the top of that point and left click. It wants to know the distance and direction. So we're going to tab into the distance field. And if I look at my screen again, I will see that I've got a distance there of 269.41. Okay, 269.41. Now that's going to go to the PI location. So I key that in. You can see how far out that is. Okay, so that's where the PI is going to be, is out there. Now we're given a direction as well. So let's take a look at what that is. It was south 36, 17, 4 east. So in our dialog, we'll do that, south 36, and we've got to do colon 17, colon 4 east. And it won't accept degrees, minutes, and seconds in here. It has to be a colon in between those. And once you hit enter, it should lock that in. You move your mouse around and you'll see you've got that exact information on the screen. So once it's locked in like that, we'll just left click to place that line. Okay. We'll right click, we can get out of that portion of the tool. And we know what the bottom one is here. So we're going to come in and put that bottom one in at 0.200. It's going to be the same exact thing. We're going to go ahead and left click on that 0.200 I placed out there. And this one, we don't really care about the distance. We don't know how far it is. We're not going to do the math to figure it out. I'm just going to key in 500. Got to key it in the right spot. So I'm going to tab to the distance, key in 500, and enter on that. Okay. Now the parameter that I put in below is locked in. So this is a good option here. If you have typed something into the wrong spot, all you gotta do is tab into that field and hit the end key, END key. If you can find that, go ahead and hit that, and that will unlock that parameter that we had in there. So, okay, so now I zoom out. I've got the 500 distance locked in. I'm going to tab into the direction. Let's see what our direction is. Our direction for this bottom one down here, let me go back there, says south 1754.20 east, but we're going up north, so we're going to have to put in north 1754.20 west. So north 1754.20 west. North 17 colon 54 colon 20 W. So I'll enter that in. That should lock that in there. See, if I double check that to make sure, we can see that it is currently the correct 1754.20. Okay, so we're good there. We're going to go out and we've got the information plugged in. We're going to make sure we're in this top coordinate here, and we'll just go ahead and left click to place that one. Okay, we'll go ahead and right click and get out of there. The next thing that we have then is we have the line that comes down between the two, and we're given its direction as well. Okay, so its direction here is south 2359.50. So 2359.50 west. Okay, so on this one, all we have to do is come down here and snap. We've got that PI point. We can snap to the end of that. And our length is just going to go down beyond this red line. Okay, so our length here, we don't really care. We can look and see in there. I'm just going to key in 700 for this one, for the distance. Enter that in. You can move it around. Okay, then we're doing the bearing. If we look at that one more time, was south 2359.50 west. So we'll key that into the dialog here, south 23 colon 59 colon 50 W for west. And then we'll go ahead and enter that in. Then if you move your mouse around, you should see that it has connected or gone a little bit past the red line. So we will go ahead and left click to accept that. We'll right click to get out of it. And now all we really need to do is put in our curves. Our first curve is an arc curve. So I'm going to double check to make sure that arc is what it's set at. So if I go to the File pull-down menu, I can go to the Settings, and then we can go over to the File option here under Settings. And then we're looking at this Design File Settings. And we'll come back here if we need to change this again, but you can see when I come into civil formatting, the last curve that I put in was a chord curve, and it remembers that. So I'm going to switch that to arc and make sure that that's what this first curve is going to be. So I'll say OK to that. And all we'll do is just go back to our drawing with this little arrow in the upper left, and that'll take us back. Now I don't really need Civil AccuDraw going anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and down here and turn that off, and it is turned off. Then I'm going to come up here, and what we're going to do is we're just going to put in simple arcs. It's kind of like the fillet tool, arc between elements, and we're going to go to the simple arc. Okay, for this one, we're given a radius. I believe it is 464, but we'll double check that. If I go into that drawing again, I can see that our radius there, the R at the bottom, is 464. So that's what we're going to want there, 464. So we've got that in there. Our trim options, actually on this one, I want to do none. Okay, no trim options. So with none on there, I'm able to not trim these elements, and I can still see them and easily get rid of them. So when I come out here, I'm just going to left click on that first line we drew. I'm going to left click on the second line that we drew. And then once I do that, I should get an arc. And that arc can go in any one of these quadrants. I want it to go in this left quadrant here. So I'm just going to left click to put that in there. My trim and extend options are going to be set at none. So I'm going to leave that at none and just accept it. So that has placed my first curve in there. Now I want to place this little curve down here. It's a chord defined curve. So I'm going to again go back to the backstage or go to the file pull down menu. And then we're going to go back to the settings again. We'll go to design file settings, our civil formatting, and it's set at arc right now. We're going to change that to chord. Okay, we'll say OK to that. And then we'll go back to the drawing. Now we've got it set at chord, so I'm going to take a look at what the manual wants as a radius there. It's 383.06. 383.06. Okay, so we'll put that in here. And we'll enter that in to lock it. Again, no trim and extend. Come in here and we're going to select it. Select the second option. And then we've got a curve in here just by selecting those two lines. This one would be way out here. But we've got an option here that we want on the right side. So we're going to go ahead and left click to place that in there. Trim and extend will be none again. So we'll accept that. And then we've got the makings of our alignment in here. So now what I want to do is I want to get rid of these extra lines that we don't need, and I want to modify this center line right through here between the two arcs to meet up at the end of the arcs. So I'm going to do that part first. So I'm going to come in here to the element selection tool, and I'm just going to select that red line. And right now it's got an arrow that points out. We're going to grab that arrow. You'll see it pop up right there. Left click that arrow and then come all the way down to the end of that arc. So there should be a red arc here. We're going to come down to the end of that. It should be in this location here. Eventually you can hop over that. There you go. Left click that. That brings it back. And then we'll do the other end. And we'll go to the end of this curve, which you'll see is right there. Left click to place it there. So now we've got our curve, a tangent, and a curve. So these extra lines, we can just remove those. Now removing those out removes some of the rules of the curves, and that's okay because we're going to combine those together. So we're just going to delete those out, and you'll see that it removes that information because it's based on those lines, but that's okay because we're going to come up here to the complex geometry tool, and we're going to do complex by elements. And instead of geometry scratch here, we're going to give it a different name, but I also want to give it a different feature definition. So if you change the name right now and then you change the feature definition, it's going to overwrite what you do. So let's go up here to the top where it says geometry scratch, and let's change our feature definition. And come down to alignment, and we're going to do a MoDOT baseline proposed. Okay, so that changes our feature definition here. It also changes our name here. And we're going to rename this to ramp 2. And we'll enter that in. So on this one, we're just going to come out onto the screen and you will see that you can get the direction of that alignment. That's what we want from the top to the bottom, north to south. So we're going to come up to the top of that arc and select it one time. We'll come to that tangent line. We'll left click on it. And then we'll left click on that last element. With all those arrows going the correct direction, we'll go out and left click in a blank area to accept all that. And then we'll go ahead and right click to end the tool and complete the process. Okay, if I go ahead and hit F4 to get out of any tool, you can see I have an alignment here. And then all we need to do after that is go out and annotate it. So we'll go to the drawing production. go to the element annotation, which is the first one in there, annotate element. And we'll go ahead and select our new ramp 2 alignment. We'll just left click on it once and then right click in a blank area. And you should see that it now completes that ramp 2. So we'll compare it. We've got, let's look at the bottom part of it here. So if we come into our drawing here, you'll see at the bottom 10 plus 15.17, and that's where we're at there. We've got the PIs matching up, 8 plus 82.49, and so forth. It looks like everything in there is pretty close to exactly how it was shown here. Okay. So you could run a report on that if you wanted to. You can just grab the heads up tool on this alignment and run that report. And all kinds of different options here to run that report, but you can come down through here and compare that to what we have in the manual. And that will complete your exercise for ramp 2.